How night lizards survived the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. In a groundbreaking discovery, ecologists at Yale University have shed new light on one of the great evolutionary mysteries: how certain species managed to endure the catastrophic asteroid impact that ended the reign of the dinosaurs. Among these unlikely survivors were the night lizards, members of the family Xanthucididae. Despite traits that should have placed them among the casualties, such as small litter sizes and restricted geographic ranges, these reptiles defied expectations and emerged on the other side of the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event, roughly 66 million years ago. Before this cataclysm, Earth was teeming with life. Vast forests, diverse ecosystems, and a global web of land and marine species painted a portrait of a thriving planet. Dinosaurs ruled the continents, pterosaurs soared through prehistoric skies, and the oceans were patrolled by colossal marine reptiles. Mammals existed too, but in modest, unassuming forms, mostly small, tree-dwelling, shrew-like creatures. Then came the Chicxulub asteroid. Over 6 miles in diameter and hurtling at approximately 43,200 miles per hour, it struck what is now the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. The energy released by this impact reached an unimaginable 10^2 superscript 3 joules. To put it in perspective, even if every explosive device ever built by humans were detonated at once, the energy wouldn't come close to matching this single cosmic blow. The immediate aftermath was cataclysmic. Forests within a 1,000-mile radius were scorched in an instant. A crater more than 100 miles wide and 12 miles deep was gouged into the Earth's crust. Giant tsunamis, some towering as high as the Eiffel Tower, raced across the oceans. Seismic shockwaves reverberated through the mantle, unleashing earthquakes exceeding magnitude 10. And just when the world may have seemed to stabilize, the situation worsened. The debris blasted into the upper atmosphere began to fall back down, heated by re-entry. This raining cascade of molten projectiles ignited global fires, turning vast areas into blazing infernos. A dense layer of soot, dust, and aerosols soon enveloped the Earth, blotting out sunlight. Photosynthesis ground to a halt. With plant life dying, the food chains collapsed from the base upward. Ocean chemistry shifted rapidly under the influence of acid rain, killing off essential plankton and entire classes of marine organisms. When it was over, nearly 75% of species, the culmination of billions of years of evolution, were lost. Yet somehow, life continued. In a recent study, scientists explored how night lizards survived what is considered the most devastating extinction event in Earth's history. The research combined genetic analysis with fossil records to determine the lineage and resilience strategies of these reptiles. Using a technique known as phylogenetic tip dating, paired with ancestral trait reconstruction, the team sought to find out whether night lizards existed prior to the KPG boundary and what characteristics may have enabled their survival. They analyzed genetic material from 34 existing night lizard species, aligning it with fossil data from various geologic layers, stretching from the early Cretaceous to the Miocene, collected across North America, Central America, and Cuba. What they found was remarkable. The Cuban species Cricosora typica represented the earliest branching point in the family tree, splitting off well before the emergence of North and Central American counterparts. Other modern genera like Lepidophyma and Xanthusia diversified much later, with parallel evolutionary bursts occurring approximately 12 million years ago, long after the asteroid impact had redrawn the biological landscape. On California's Channel Islands, for instance, the giant island night lizard evolved from a mainland lineage that migrated westward nearly 10 million years ago. These lizards crossed land bridges that once connected the islands to the mainland before being cut off by rising sea levels. Most compellingly, the research indicates that today's 34 known night lizard species all descended from at least 2 ancient lineages that originated around 92 million years ago and successfully crossed the KPG extinction boundary. Unlike other vertebrate survivors, particularly mammals and birds, which often succeeded thanks to wide ranges and large litters, night lizards possessed neither. The ancestral females likely produced only 2 offspring at a time, based on statistical reconstructions. Some modern species like Cricosora lay just a single egg, while larger-bodied island species can have somewhat more prolific broods. Still, this reproductive restraint stands in contrast to the patterns typically associated with post-extinction success. Interestingly, the data shows that larger body size correlates with higher fecundity, suggesting that bigger litters may have evolved later as adaptations to isolated island environments. These findings challenge long-standing assumptions about extinction survival. They suggest that factors beyond large geographic ranges or high reproductive output may play vital roles in resilience. Night lizards appear to have survived one of Earth's most violent chapters while inhabiting specialized, narrow niches and producing very few offspring. Direct fossil evidence from the immediate impact zone is absent, understandably so, given the destruction the asteroid caused. However, reconstructed ancestral ranges and molecular dating suggest that night lizards were already established in North and Central America during the late Cretaceous. This offers indirect but compelling evidence that they lived relatively close to ground zero, enduring the worst and still emerging intact. This revelation is not merely of historical interest. Understanding how night lizards survived the KPG extinction offers insights into how species may respond to today's rapidly changing environment. With the current rate of biodiversity loss accelerating due to human activities, such knowledge is invaluable. It challenges the predictive models that rely heavily on reproductive output or range size, and opens the door to more nuanced understandings of evolutionary resilience. The survival of night lizards is a testament to nature's complexity. In a world scorched by fire, choked in darkness, and emptied of giants, these unassuming reptiles endured, not by being numerous or far-ranging, but through a strategy that defies our expectations. Their legacy reminds us that survival isn't always about scale or speed, but sometimes about adaptability in the smallest, most overlooked forms. When worms rewrote their DNA to survive on land, a genomic earthquake 200 million years ago. Evolution has long been portrayed as a slow, patient process, tiny changes gradually accumulating over millions of years. That was Charles Darwin's vision when he first laid the foundation for evolutionary theory in 1859. But new research has emerged that turns this picture on its head. A team of scientists has uncovered compelling evidence that some species may have rewritten their entire genetic code in one massive, chaotic leap. Over 200 million years ago, ancient marine worms began one of the most dramatic transitions in evolutionary history. They left the sea behind and crawled onto land. But these creatures didn't just adapt over time. They detonated their own genomes, shattering their DNA into fragments and reassembling it in entirely new ways. It was a complete genetic overhaul, so extreme and sudden that it stunned even the researchers who discovered it. This event wasn't just rare, it may represent a fundamental process in evolution. It supports a controversial model known as punctuated equilibrium. Unlike Darwin's gradualism, this theory suggests that species can remain genetically stable for millions of years, only to suddenly leap forward through radical evolutionary shifts. Until now, evidence for this theory has been limited, but this discovery offers a genomic mechanism that may finally explain how such jumps occur. The research team, led by the Institute of Evolutionary Biology, a collaboration between the Spanish National Research Council and Pompeu Fabra University, has provided the first chromosomal-level genome sequences for several earthworm species. These genomes were compared with their marine relatives, such as leeches and bristle worms. This effort required building high-quality genomic data from scratch, no references, no shortcuts. The precision of the sequencing was comparable to that of the Human Genome Project, but focused entirely on invertebrates. For the first time, scientists could reconstruct the evolutionary history of these worms in stunning detail. They were able to peer more than 200 million years into the past, to a moment when ocean-dwelling annelids began to invade terrestrial habitats. What they found shocked them. Rather than a gradual shift, the genomes of these worms had undergone explosive reorganization. The researchers observed that the marine worm's genetic structure had been completely dismantled and rebuilt. Entire chromosomes were broken apart and then stitched back together in ways that bore little resemblance to their former arrangements. These weren't minor mutations, they were sweeping architectural changes at the genomic level. The scale and speed of the transformation defy the predictions of traditional evolutionary theory. As lead researcher Rosa Fernandez put it, the level of genomic chaos was so great she had her team rerun the analysis multiple times, unable to believe the initial results. So how did these worms survive such a radical transformation? The answer may lie in the three-dimensional structure of their genomes. Unlike vertebrates and other model organisms, the chromosomes of these worms appear to be far more flexible. This flexibility could allow genes to relocate and still function together. It's a kind of genomic plasticity that may have been essential for survival during such a tumultuous evolutionary period. Adapting to life on land presented major challenges: exposure to sunlight, breathing air, navigating solid terrain. The worms' restructured genomes may have helped them meet these demands head-on. Genes that were previously separated were suddenly joined, creating entirely new configurations known as genetic chimeras. These hybrid sequences may have enabled novel traits to emerge, granting the worms the tools to thrive in their new terrestrial environment. What makes this even more extraordinary is that such extreme genomic changes are typically associated with disease in humans. In cancer research, a phenomenon called chromoanagenesis describes how chromosomes can shatter and reassemble in cancer cells, often with disastrous consequences. Yet in these worms, similar processes didn't lead to dysfunction, they led to evolutionary success. The implications go far beyond worms. This research challenges a central dogma of genetics, that the linear arrangement of genes, where they sit on a chromosome, must be conserved to maintain biological function. The study suggests that this assumption may not hold true for all life. In fact, it raises the possibility that in some organisms, genome fluidity is not a problem but a solution. Stability, rather than being the rule, could actually be the rare exception. Importantly, this study has reignited one of the oldest debates in evolutionary science. Can both Darwin's gradualism and the theory of punctuated equilibrium be true? Fernandez believes they can. Gradual evolution explains much of what we see in population genetics, but it may fall short when it comes to major evolutionary milestones, like the sudden explosion of animal diversity over 500 million years ago or the transition from sea to land 200 million years ago. In such cases, the idea of punctuated equilibrium may provide the missing explanation. In the years ahead, scientists plan to expand this research to other invertebrates, creatures whose genomic architecture remains largely unexplored. Hidden among these species could be further examples of evolutionary leaps, waiting to be uncovered. By studying their genomes, researchers hope to gain a deeper understanding of how flexible, dynamic, and resilient life truly is. This study not only uncovers a powerful mechanism of evolution but also opens the door to entirely new ways of thinking about how life adapts and changes. It suggests that evolution is not always slow and steady. Sometimes, it is radical, chaotic, and breathtakingly fast. And sometimes, the greatest leaps come from the smallest of creatures. Stay tuned to 1 Minute Science for more groundbreaking discoveries, where even the tiniest worm might hold the secret to life's greatest transformations.